Life gets better when you stop trying to earn it. Stop trying to earn happiness in life. Just live your life. Be happy in the moment. You don't have to accomplish 5 million things to be happy. Just be happy and enjoy life just for the sake of it. The timeline doesn't matter. You're not behind. I only have a timeline for myself, and anyone else's timeline is completely irrelevant to me and who I am. Hello, and welcome back to the Empower.Her podcast. It is a very special episode because, you guys, it's episode 100. I'm seriously in shock that I've had 100 episodes. You know, when I first started this podcast, honestly, when I started the podcast, I was just like, who am I to start a podcast? Like, I love listening to podcasts. I have, oh my God, if you looked at my Spotify Wrapped, I have so many hours of podcasts every year. Like, it's like 22,000 hours or something insane. Like, it's a lot. So I love listening to podcasts. It's one of my favorite things. I listen to them all day whenever I'm not like working or sleeping or whatever. I'm listening to podcasts, whether I'm cooking, whether I'm walking around at the gym. Like, I'm always listening to a podcast. And when I started mine 2 years ago at this point, I had no idea what it would become. I really had no idea. I didn't know what it would be, how long it would last, how much it would change me. And so in honor of the 100th episode, I wanted to do something a little bit different today. And I don't know if I'm going to get like emotional, but I'm in my 30s now. And in my 20s, I just had a lot of anxiety. I had a lot of stress, a lot of anxiety, a lot of thoughts about the future. I was in therapy. I had different romantic relationships. I started a career and spent a majority of my life in like a big career that I had in corporate. And then at the end, I left towards the end of my 20s. I just had so many changes in that time. And that version of me was just so different than the version of me who sits here today. And so I thought it would be fun as the 100th episode to have a little conversation as if it was a sit down with my younger self, that version of me, and give her some advice, like talk about the advice I would give myself, because I know a lot of you are, you know, in progression in your career and in life, and there's so many things that you're thinking about and doing. And I know I have younger listeners as well. And so, you know, hopefully this can inspire you and give you some insight into my thoughts over the last 10, 15 years that I've gone through life and the things that have come up for me and what has changed. And I really just, you know, it's more like a love letter to all the women out there who are still figuring it out, whether it's in their careers, in their relationships, in themselves. So, you know, I wanted to give you my thoughts, my lessons that I would share with my younger self if I was able to talk to her. I don't want to get emotional, but it's making me emotional just thinking about it. I broke this down into sort of different areas, and so we'll go through each area and kind of the advice I will give. Some of them I'll go into more details, maybe some I won't, but I think that they'll be super, super helpful. So since I talk so much about career, and obviously like the main aspect of my life as a career coach, I thought it would be only fitting to start with the career and purpose part. So some of the lessons that I've had around ambition, around burnout, about redefining success. So I'm going to kind of list them off, maybe go into some of them. I'm not going to number them because there's like a million, but I think it'll be good to just go through. So the first thing is that the timeline doesn't matter. You're not behind. I really had to learn this, that I only have a timeline for myself, and anyone else's timeline is completely irrelevant to me and who I am. And I think that that's really important to look at, is like, your life is your life. It's not anyone else's, and their life isn't yours. And so just going with the timeline that works for you is what's going to matter. The next thing is, work isn't worth your stress and anxiety. I was so stressed when I was in corporate, especially towards the end. It's literally just a job. It's just a job. Unless you're in like the medical field or something that's life and death, like it literally doesn't matter. Like I always say now, especially to my clients, because I worked in marketing. I'm like, it's literally just marketing. Like, it's literally just marketing. Like, it's not that deep, right? The next thing is you can have it all, but not all at once. This is something I've realized recently, especially as a woman who has a big life, who's married, who is thinking of having kids at some point, who loves to cook and clean, who loves to do literally everything. I really had to think about, okay, what are my priorities? What can I do now? What season of life am I in? But that it's not something that I can have all at once, and that's okay. And that is absolutely okay. The next one is that rest is part of success. The break you have, the rest you have is part of the work, is part of the success. I didn't rest in my 20s. It was literally 9 to 5. Actually, I worked 9 to 6. Then it would be going to the gym or going to dinner with friends or cooking or cleaning or doing whatever, going to bed, waking up early, doing the same thing all over again every day. I was always out in the streets, like always out and about. Like I was never at home, literally. And so resting is super important. And when I got in my 30s, I realized like it's necessary. It's absolutely necessary. The next thing is you don't need motivation. You need systems and boundaries. This is something, again, that more recent that I've been talking, especially to my clients with, is I've always been someone who, for whatever reason, and I don't want to downplay it, but for whatever reason, I've been always pretty good about being disciplined and, reaching my goals. And it's not because I always felt motivated. It's because I had those systems in place. I had in my calendar written out. I had timers that I used, different tools. Like I had everything in place so that I would always work towards my goals, even if I didn't feel motivated. So I think this is something super important, especially in your career goals. The next one is your career is one part of your identity. It is not your entire worth. So many of us, especially women, high achieving women, and then we have neurodivergent women, we tie our identity and our career to our worth, right? If we don't do well in our career, if we're not making enough money, if we get a rejection, it says something about our worth. It absolutely does not. It absolutely does not. And so many of us tie our worth to our productivity. And I used to believe that if I wasn't constantly achieving, then I was failing. But honestly, the truth is that you don't need to prove you're hardworking. You already are, right? And the universe has your back. Every no, every rejection is a redirection, right? And thinking of it that way can really help your inner peace to have you feeling that way. And we spend, and I think this really goes with your careers, like we spend so much of our 20s trying to control outcomes. I know that's what I was trying to do. I was constantly trying to control outcomes and in the future. And that's what caused my anxiety, right? Because anxiety comes from living in the future and not being able to live in the now. And so really taking that time to understand is like, I don't need to control every outcome. And I'm not being punished. I'm not being rejected. I'm just being redirected. I'll never forget, I was super unhappy in my corporate job. This was about 2.5 years before I ended up quitting. I was in a really unhappy period. And I applied to a couple jobs, and one job that I really liked, it was at a fashion company. It would have been a really cool job. I wasn't like the most qualified, I would say, compared to what they were looking for. Like it wasn't my area of expertise, but I had some transferable skills. And I applied and I made it to like round 2 of the interview, and then they didn't hire me. And I remember being so upset because I thought like, oh my God, this was my chance. This was such a cool industry. I would have loved to do this. But if I would have gone there, I don't think I would be where I am today, because I ended up making shifts in my career at that point in my company. I moved into a different position. I started really focusing and hunkering down on coaching in 2020. And that's how I ended up becoming a full-time coach. So it was redirecting me that wasn't the direction for me, but where I am today. And I'm just so much happier. And again, it's not that there's a right path, there's just your path. So thinking of it from that perspective. So let's move on to the next set of topics, which is, we could call it like personal growth and mindset related. So the first is that it's okay to evolve and let go of who you were. I was always so scared to evolve and to let go of that version of myself that I think I was holding myself back often. And the next one is different seasons of life have different purposes. I sort of mentioned this in the career section, but just like being okay with that, different parts of your life are going to have different focuses, and that's okay. It goes back to like, you don't have to have everything at once, but you can have it all in your life. That's very similar. There's also no wrong decision. There's only data for your next decision. Every decision you make gives you data, gives you information. It's not that it's wrong, it's giving you information. Listen to your gut. I had absolutely zero idea how to listen to my gut when I was in my 20s. I didn't even know what my intuition was. I didn't know how she sounded. I didn't know what to look for when she was speaking to me. Absolutely zero idea. And in 2020, when the pandemic hit, I've talked about this a lot, is that's when I had my like intense spiritual awakening, and when I really was like more in tune with my body and like all of those things. That's when I really realized of like, okay, I do need to listen to my gut, and what does she actually sound like? And let's talk about it, right? And so that's really where that came from, of like really listening to my gut. And so just being in tune with that. The next is trust the universe has your back. Now, if you're religious, you can substitute universe for God or whoever, but trust that the universe has your back. And again, every no is a redirection. It's setting you up for something different. And this can really help from a mindset perspective as well. And another one is you won't think your way into peace. You have to feel your way there. So what this means is like, a lot of times I was trying to like logically think of things, and instead of feeling and listening to my intuition and understanding what would be right for me, I wasn't doing that. And so it's really about tapping into your intuition, listening to your emotions and feelings, and having that also be a priority. So I think just really with the mindset and personal growth piece, like it's important to really think of like you as a person, you as an evolving person, really listening to your gut and just knowing that like you have to make the best decision for you in the moment. And it's not always about necessarily trying to make a decision that's right for everyone else or trying to make a perfect decision. It's really about you growing and adapting and allowing yourself to grow and adapt. The next topic that I want to talk about is relationships and love. Now, this is not something I talk a lot about on my podcast. However, it's a topic I'm deeply interested in. I read a lot of books on relationships and dynamics, and I'm very fascinated by it, even in my own relationships. It's something I really enjoy. I actually used to, my mom and I had a blog, and I would write about relationship topics. It was a lot of like dating stuff too, but also relationships. It's something I am just like highly interested in. And I think it probably comes from the fact that I want my own relationship to succeed. And so I do a lot of research. But this is just, some of the lessons I learned in the past 10, 15 years related to relationships and love. Keep your standards high, but your expectations grounded. So I think, we have these like high expectations of people, and when they don't meet them, we get disappointed, but then our standards are too low, right? We're accepting behavior that's just not okay. And so I think that's similar, is like, you should have high standards. You should be able to know and say what you want and what works for you, but keep your expectations grounded. You have to often teach someone what your expectations are, right? And I'm not talking about being nice to you, being kind. I'm saying like, maybe it's someone who isn't used to celebrating their own birthday, so they don't know that that's important to you, or, whatever it is, like those little things can be super important. The next one is that the right person won't dim your spark, they'll amplify it. So I always say this, I always compare, not always, but I do compare my current relationship to the last one. In the last relationship, he just totally dimmed my spark. I felt like I was a shell of who I was. I tried to conform to make him happy. In our last episode, we talked about the chill girl. Yeah, that was me to a max. I never said anything about anything. I let him do whatever he wanted. He totally managed our relationship, and he decided on everything, and I was so unhappy. And in this relationship, I've been difficult since the beginning. I didn't even want to date my husband at the beginning. I was like not responding to his messages. I was cold. I was doing all the things, and he wanted me because he saw past that. And he doesn't dim my spark, he amplifies it. Anytime we talk about something, he's giving me ideas and advice and talking about how we could do this and that, and he pushes me up and wants me to succeed, and that's what's super important. And the next one kind of goes off of this as well, is like, you don't have to shrink yourself to be loved. If you have to make yourself smaller, that's not love, that's control. That's someone controlling you and wanting you to be a version of yourself that fits into their mold and makes them happy, but doesn't actually work for you. You shouldn't have to shrink yourself. You could even become a bigger, better version of yourself. And this is both metaphorically and also physically as well. The next one is, if it's draining you, it's not love, it's a lesson. So I always say this, and I don't remember who said this first. Like, I know this is like a pretty famous quote or thought going around, but basically, like, relationships shouldn't be hard. Life should be hard, or, well, it shouldn't be, but life is hard, and it's about how you deal with those things. But your relationship, your marriage shouldn't be hard. And I always say this is like, my marriage is not hard. We have hard things that happen in our life that don't have to do with us, but affect us, that we have to deal with as a couple, that we have to deal with individually. But our relationship isn't hard because we love each other. We have common interests. We are compatible, like all of those things. And so if it is draining you, if you are in a relationship that's draining you, that's not real love. That's not real love. And the last one that kind of goes off of this is like, real love feels safe, not performative. You shouldn't have to perform in your relationship and in your love. It should just feel real. It should feel natural. And a lot of this goes into like, whether, it doesn't matter the type of relationship, but the energy you allow in is the energy that you'll live in. So again, not being easy, being who you are, not shrinking, right? The right people will love you as you are. You will not need to shrink and be a smaller version of yourself. And the last part is about sort of just love and joy and, perspective, gratitude, self-compassion. So I thought this would be good to kind of end on of my thoughts there. And something that I've thought of so much is, I hear a lot of discourse online is like, being an adult sucks, or like, people always say to kids who want to grow up fast, oh, you don't want to grow up fast, like, enjoy your years. I was the child that couldn't wait to be an adult. I was always like, I can't wait till I have my own money, till I'm in, till I'm working, I'm out of school. And honestly, I still feel the same way. I would not go back to my teenage years, to my childhood years. I love being an adult in terms of like, yes, you have to work hard, and yes, you have like bills and things to deal with that are super annoying, but in general, I love the freedom that it gives me. I love the money. I love that I get to decide what I want to do. I really enjoy being an adult. So enjoy it. Look at the positive. See what you can get out of the situation. The next one is that money doesn't solve your scarcity mindset. It enhances it. So as someone who was in credit card debt when I was starting my business and had a lot of scarcity mindset around money, and, thinking that I always needed to buy things on sale. And, there was just a lot of like small reinforcements that I had that I felt that just really didn't work with who I was. Those things really affected me. And when I had more money, it didn't solve my scarcity mindset. In fact, the way I solved my scarcity mindset is when I was at my lowest financially, when I was starting my business, when I didn't have money, when I was in credit card debt. That is when I healed my scarcity mindset around money. So then by the time I started getting more money, I didn't have that scarcity mindset anymore. And I was able to actually better manage my money. I was able to handle my mini shopping addiction I had. And the more money came in because I was budgeting, I was managing it well. So first learn to manage your scarcity mindset in whatever money situation you're in. And then it'll be easier to get the money to come in, and it'll be easier for the money to stay as well. The next one is that life gets better when you stop trying to earn it. Stop trying to earn happiness in life. Just live your life. Be happy in the moment. You don't have to accomplish 5 million things to be happy. Just be happy and enjoy life just for the sake of it. The next one is keep a sense of wonder, be playful, be curious. This is something that we could tie maybe to even like the childlike behavior. I personally have struggled with this because, I was definitely a parentified child. I'm an oldest daughter, oldest granddaughter, the things. And so that's really caused me to grow up quickly. And I definitely lost my sense of playfulness and childlike energy as well. And it's something I'm still working on, but it is important. And even just traveling, being curious about people, being curious about life is something that can be super helpful. The next thing is the best version of you isn't perfect. She's present. So I really worked on stop trying to be perfect and instead just be present in myself. Great example of this is like the discussion, and most women I think will know and understand is like the weight discussion. I struggled a lot with my body image and how I looked in my 20s. And when I was at my thinnest is when I hated myself the most. And, now I'm in my largest body and I feel the happiest. I feel, the best. And is my body perfect? I wouldn't even use that word, but she is great. She is perfect to me. And I am appreciating her now because I know when I have kids or when I'm 70, I'm going to be like, oh, I wish I would have enjoyed my body when I was in my 30s because she's beautiful. She works well. It's not about the pounds. It's not about the size of the clothing. It's about being healthy and feeling good and just like accepting the version of you now. That's great. And it doesn't mean you can't have goals or can't have things you want to achieve. I do too, but it's really just about being present and loving yourself in the now. And it kind of goes, I kind of already mentioned this, but the next one is you'll miss this version of yourself someday. So appreciate her now. I swear this is going to make me emotional, but just enjoy life and what it is. I talk about this a lot in terms of career. If you are always looking for the next goal and to hit the next goal, you're never going to appreciate the now and who you are in this version of yourself. And going through the steps is where the growth happens. Going through the steps is where you become that version of yourself. So just focus on that version of yourself that you're at now. And again, kind of the overarching theme is we want to rush into life always and go to the next thing and the next thing and the next thing. But there's no finish line in life. There's absolutely no finish line. So instead, focus on what you're building now, not later, but now. Focus on who you are now. Focus on living your life now. So, these are my sort of reflections that I've really thought about recently that I wish I could tell my younger self. I don't know if she would listen to me. She was quite stubborn, but I think it could be helpful. And no matter what age you're at, you don't have to have it all figured out. You just need to keep showing up for yourself, keep being that version of yourself who's trying, and that is enough, and you are enough. So I have a couple of reflection prompts that I'd like to share with you to kind of get you thinking about all this. So definitely write them down or in your phone, grab a pen, paper. So the first reflection prompt is, what would your older self thank you for today? The next one is, what part of your life are you rushing through instead of appreciating? And the last one is, what advice would you give your younger self right now? And I just wanted to say thank you all for 100 episodes. Thank you for being here. Thank you for listening. Thank you for growing with me. I know a lot of you have been here since the beginning, and I appreciate it more than this is such a big milestone for me. And maybe I don't have 5 million listeners, but I'm still appreciating it. I'm taking my own advice. I'm appreciating what I have today. And I know all of you who listen enjoy, and you give me such great feedback, and I absolutely love to hear it. So I really appreciate all of you, and thank you for being here. I'm giving a little cheers to the next 100 episodes and a cheers to all the versions of ourselves that we haven't met yet and that maybe we'll give advice to in 10 more years. I hope this episode was inspirational and you took some advice that's going to help you. I hope you'll have an amazing, fabulous week, and I'll catch you in the next episode.